Thank you, everybody, for coming to class. Before we begin reading from the Bhagavatam, as usual, we just read briefly about the life of Srila Prabhupada. Because here we don't just hear the philosophy, we see the philosophy in action, which is much higher, We can think nice things, but unless we actually see how to properly live it, it's simply theoretical. So that's why we study the lives of great saints. So this is, you come in right at the end, this is Prabhupada just as he's about to leave his body. He's very in very weak health and things, and the doctor said he should have left his body a long time ago, but he was just holding on for the sake of the devotees, no medicine, nothing like this, just simply devotion. Up until the end, there were interludes of sweetness, as well as displays of Prabhupada's indomitable mood of fighting for Krishna. One day, Prabhupada's sister Pashima arrived unexpectedly, and Prabhupada asked her to cook khichdi. At that time, Kirtananda was trying to put Prabhupada on the road to recovery by gradually increasing his liquids, and Kirtananda and other devotees opposed the idea of his suddenly eating solid foods, which the Prabhupada insisted. It doesn't matter whether what she cooks does good to me or bad, said Srila Prabhupada. She is a Vaishnavi, and it will be good for me. He then began to speak in an extremely humble way. Probably I became a little puffed up because of my opulence and success, he said. Now God has shattered that pride. If you don't have your body, what is there to be puffed up about? Bhatticharu protested. Srila Prabhupada, whatever you have done for Krishna. That may be, but in this world, unknowingly you commit offences. When Pashima heard this, she exclaimed, No, he never committed any offence. You cannot ever commit offences, said Bhatticharu. You are God's very dear one. How can you commit offences? I am a little temperamental, said Srila Prabhupada. I used to use words like rascal and so on. I never compromised. They used to call it a club in one hand and a Bhagavatam in the other. That is how I preach. Anyway, make arrangements for my sister. There were also visits from Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers, and again Prabhupada asked forgiveness for his offences. One time, Niskinchana Krishnadas Babaji, Puri Maharaj, Ashrama Maharaj, Ananda Prabhu, Purushottama Brahmachari, and about 20 others came in and sat next to Prabhupada's bed. He was resting while they arrived, and they joined the kirtan until he woke. When he saw them, he asked to be raised up. Sitting in the center of his bed, with his godbrothers all around, he addressed them. All over the world there is a beautiful field to preach Krishna consciousness, he said. I didn't care whether I would be successful or not. People are willing to take. They are all taking also. If we preach together, the saying of Mahaprabhu, Pritiviti, will come true. We have everything. Spread the holy name and distribute prasadam. There is a beautiful field in Africa, in Russia, everywhere they're accepting. So I'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I will continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. Is Canto 7, Chapter 2, entitled Hiranyakashipu, King of the Demons. And it's text 4 onwards. We'll chant, I think, text 6 together. So these, yes, 3 onwards. Thank you. I'll do these first ones myself. Karala damstrogra drishya duspreksha brukuti mukha shulam ujjamya sadasi danavan idam abravit. Exhibiting his terrible teeth, fierce glance, and frowning eyebrows, terrible to see, he took up his weapon, a trident, and thus began speaking to his associates, the assembled demons. Just to give a little context here, Bhagavatam is, you see, in this world we have many great movies or stories or people they love, whether it's Star Wars or Harry Potter, anything it is. And ultimately, the reason they're attracted to this is because it's a pale, like a little reflection of reality. And Bhagavatam is describing, it's much bigger than just this one planet. Even it's describing the events happening throughout the entire universe. And so here we see that there's, like in Star Wars, there's good guys and there's bad guys. And here we got Hiranyakashipu, he's sort of the king of the demons, one of the topmost bad guys, and his brother's been killed by Lord Vishnu, and he's very, very angry. And it's interesting, we can see, in one sense, this is a historical event, but we also can take lessons from it because we can see how we have these same mentalities existing within ourselves. Bobo Danava Daitya Dvimurdam Straksha Shambara Shatabaho Hayagriva Namuche Paka Ilvala Viprachite Mama Vacha Puluman Shakunadaya Shinutanantaram Sarve Kriyatama Shumachiram. O Danavas and Daityas, O Dvimurda, Traksha, Shambara, and Shatabahu, O Hayagriva, Namuchi, Paka, and Ilavala, O Viprachiti, Puraman, Shakunan, and other demons, all of you kindly hear me attentively, and then act according to my words without delay. Okay, and then we'll do this together. Sapatner Gatita Kshodrer Bratrame Daita Susit Varshni Grahena Sahina Saminapyu Padavanai Sapadne Gatita Kshodraya Bratame Daita Surit Varshni Grahena Harina Saminapyo Padavanai Sapadne Gatita Kshodra Bratame Daita Suhrit Varshni Grahena Harina Samena Pyapudavanai Sapadne Kshatita Shodre Bratame Daita Surit Varshni Grahena Harina Samena Pyapudavanai. Sapadnai by the enemies. Gatita killed. Kshodrai insignificant in power. Brata brother. Me my. Daita very dear. Suhrit well-wisher. Varshni Grahena attacking from the rear. Harina by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Samena equal to everyone, both the demons and the demigods. Api although Upadavanai by the worshippers, the demigods. Translation pop-up by Prabhupada Ki. My insignificant enemies, the demigods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the demigods and the demons, this time being devoutly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Hiranyaksha. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 9.29, Samoham Sarva Bhuteshu, the Lord is equal to all living entities. Since the demigods and the demons are both living entities, how is it possible that the Lord was partial to one class of living entities and opposed to another? Actually, it is not possible for the Lord to be partial. Nonetheless, since the demigods, the devotees, always strictly follow the Supreme Lord's orders, because of sincerity they are victorious over the demons, who know that the Supreme Lord is Vishnu but do not follow his instructions. Because of constantly remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, the demons generally attain Sayuja Mukti after death. The demon Hiranyakashipu accused the Lord of being partial because the demigods worshipped him, but in fact the Lord, like the government, is not partial at all. The government is not partial to any citizen, but if a citizen is law abiding, he receives abundant opportunities from the state laws to live peacefully and fulfill his real interests. Omegyanatamarandasya gananjana sharakaya chakshuranmaditam jena tasmai shri gurave namaha Shri Chaitanya manobhishtam stapitam tena bhutale swayam rupa garamayam dadanti swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijina Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shiva Shakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dino Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vinevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukham Karoti Vacharam Bhangam Nankate Krimakrapatmaham Vande Shri Guru Vintanam Namaste Krishna Krishna I'll just repeat the verse one more time. My insignificant enemies, the demigods, have combined to kill my very dear and obedient well-wisher, my brother Hiranyaksha. Although the Supreme Lord Vishnu is always equal to both of us, namely the demigods and the demons, this time being devoutly worshipped by the demigods, he has taken their side and helped them kill Hiranyaksha. It's interesting. There's many descriptions in the Vedic scriptures, like the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, of what are the qualities of one who is saintly and the qualities of ones who are, they use this word, demonic, the opposite of saintly. And it's a little bit worrying because when we start reading these qualities, we can realize actually there's a lot of these qualities inside of us regarding the demonic ones. Previously, we may have some conceptions that we're quite something. We think we're quite special. And then when you actually start practicing spirituality, you properly get serious, you realize actually how much work you have to do. And it's not always the most comforting thing. So similarly here, Hiranyakashipu, he's demonstrating a mentality that I've seen in myself a lot, and I've noticed in other people as well. This idea that it's not fair, Someone must be working against us. It's funny, we go out on the street, we distribute some books, try and teach people about the science of God realization, understanding who they are. I suppose say, well, my mother just died. I can't believe in God, They say something like this. And they pick something bad has happened to them, and they use this as a reason to either disbelieve in God or to disregard the whole premise. How can there be a God when there's suffering in the world? And because ultimately they have a very narrow vision. it's like we can look at our situation, and we're expecting, in this example, someone's mother dies untimely, so they're expecting her to live for another 10 years. If she lived for another 10 years, oh, then it's fine. Then there is a God. Because she died unexpectedly. Then, no, I cannot believe. It's very superficial. It's transactional, I'll believe in a God if he's satisfying my senses. If I've got a nice material circumstance, then it's okay. I can believe in a God. I can walk, take a nice walk through the forest and smell the roses and go, oh, isn't it lovely? But as soon as it goes away, then no, I no longer believe. It's very, very flickering, this belief. Whereas fundamentally, when you get in the bigger picture, you can see that there's no basis for existence unless you have a supreme being. That the fact that people are, they're taking birth and dying again, you can see that their personality is like, this lifetime is like looking at one frame of a movie picture. Like a film is made up of many still frames, and so you can see that this entire personality, as it develops, as the body grows, has existed previously and will exist in the future. This idea that individuality is constant. And you understand the intricacies of the design, you understand, well, there must be some sort of creator. And whether or not we believe or disbelieve in him is a little bit irrelevant in terms to him, but to us it's important. So this chapter, or this part of the Bhagavatam, is dealing with this idea that basically people think God is not equal. He's not equal. How can he be equal? Look how some people are getting treated, other people are getting treated. And this is establishing that fundamentally he's not partial to anybody. He even gives a definition in the Bhagavad Gita. It's quoted here. Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stinapriya. That those who, he's equal to everybody, but those who worship him, then he's a friend. Because ultimately the supreme truth, Krishna, is personal. It's not simply transactional. It's not like I do X amount of good things, then I get X amount of good rewards. It's very impersonal. But to be a person means having a loving relationship. And ultimately it's up to Krishna what happens to us. But fundamentally, he's the source of everything. We're all, it describes here, like his children. And although a father may sometimes appear slightly harsh to one child, simply to teach them, ultimately he loves every single one of them. But he gives them different treatments accordingly. But yeah, so this chapter is establishing how Krishna is equal to everybody. But then later scriptures, they actually establish how Krishna, he's not completely equal to everybody. This is what happens is in spiritual knowledge we learn one thing, and we go deeper, we realize it's a little bit more complicated than that. Because when we hear about, when Krishna comes in the form of Lord Chaitanya, Lord Chaitanya is an incarnation of Krishna who propagated to basically give love of God to everybody, very freely, by the process of chanting the names of God, which is a recommended process for this age. And you see, great emphasis is placed upon serving and pleasing those who already have love for God. Because Krishna says, it's stated, Sri Krishna Karshani, that devotional service to Krishna, if someone has true love for God, love for Krishna, and they're serving him, then Krishna, it's not that he simply reciprocates with this, he actually becomes purchased by it. That the love of that person is so great that Krishna in some sense becomes under their control. And then Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita that because Krishna says, if someone is very engrossed in material activities, then we shouldn't unnecessarily disturb them. We shouldn't just grab them by the shoulders and go, wake up. You just let people go along, gradually purify them. And Krishna is sort of giving this more peaceful approach. But Prabhupada is saying in the purport of the Bhagavad Gita that the devotees of the Lord they're kinder than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord, and therefore they go out their way to try and give Krishna consciousness to others. So people who are not particularly fundamentally ready, in one sense they're all ready, but they're not at that stage of consciousness, still, the devotees have a duty to share this knowledge. And we see that it's like this, because Krishna is purchased by his pure devotees. Someone has pure love for Krishna, is serving us with complete love. Krishna is purchased by this. He'll do whatever they want. And that devotee is very merciful. Therefore, we get the mercy of that devotee. Then the devotee says to Krishna, okay, Krishna, can you be merciful to this person? And Krishna says, okay. Even though we've got no qualification. So the art of spiritual science is actually how to please the advanced devotees. How to actually understand who is it who has love for God, and how can we serve them. And this is why great emphasis is placed on taking a spiritual master, someone who is your teacher, is your guide, but is also your access back home. You see through any traditions, no one's ever achieved anything great without a teacher. And particularly when it comes to developing love for God, not a single person, whatever tradition they come from, not a single person has got this on their own merit. You can learn so many things, you can read so many books, you can do austerities, you can do so many things, but unless you have someone who's actually willing to give you Krishna Bhakti, then you're not going to reach there on your own. Which generally people don't like to hear. It's very difficult. We think oftentimes we take the spiritual life to try and get away from all these personal relationships. We're having some suffering here. We just want to merge, but fundamentally, to succeed, we need to become even more personal. This makes sense so far. If you have any questions, right, just ask. So it's interesting. In the word for word, the word sapatnai means by the enemies. And there's a footnote here. Both the demons and demigods understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the Supreme Master. But the demigods follow the Master, whereas the demons defy him. Thus, the demigods and demons are compared to the two co-wives of one husband. Each wife is a sapatni, co-wife of the other, and therefore the word sapatna is used here. It's quite interesting, yeah. In Vedic culture, having more than one wife is not prohibited, but at the same time, it's never recommended. There's many, many stories of, we look at the story of Lord Ramachandra. His father, Dasa Maharaj, had multiple wives, and one of them gets jealous, and she asks for this benediction for Lord Ram to be sent to the forest. The same with Pandu, he has two wives, and then he gets cursed, and one of the wives breaks his curse. There's always the Vedic form of morality or ethics is very practical. It's not saying like a hard series of rules like the 10 Commandments saying do this, do not do this. It's basically saying here's the ideal, and then if you don't follow this, then you can still do these other things which aren't so good, but here's the consequences. So you become more responsible in this way. But you're going back to this previous point about how when we get the mercy of the devotee, then we get the mercy of Krishna. There's one very famous story that is narrated in the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, or in Krishna book. It describes Krishna killing the demon Kaliya, or not killing the demon, subduing the demon Kaliya. Krishna's in Vrindavan with the cowherd boys. The young boys looking after the cows, and then all the boys at one point they're very thirsty, so they take a drink from the river Yamuna. As soon as you drink it, they all pass down dead. because the water has been poisoned by this, like it's a demon, this in the form of a snake. It was basically poisoned all the area, so much so that birds, when they fly over the river, they would actually just, the fumes coming from the snake would cause the birds to die mid-flight, and it would fall, and all the trees round about were becoming devoid of life, etc. And so all the cowherd boys, they die, and then so Krishna, he restores them back to life. And he thinks, okay, I'm going to have to do something about this snake. So he climbs up onto, there's a kadamba tree, the only tree that's alive in this area. Some people say it's alive because simply it got touched by Krishna's lotus feet. And other people say that because Garuda knew this was going to happen, he dropped some nectar on it to preserve that tree. So Krishna climbs up on the tree, and he tightens his belt, and then he jumps into the river Yamuna. And although Krishna, he's just looking like a young boy. How old is he in this pastime? 7 or something? The 7-year-old, 7-year-old boys are not so big, but still this huge wave arose when he went in, as if like a huge, massive, like mountain had fallen into the river, because Krishna is ultimately the source of everything. It's very, very heavy, and if he wants to exhibit that, so he went to challenge the snake. So he started making lots and lots of noise, splashing around, and the snake got very, very angry. So he comes up. He's described. He's actually got many, many hoods. Not, you see snakes now, we just have like one hood like this. The snake had many, many hoods, huge. And so he wraps Krishna up in the coils like this. And you have to understand, Krishna is he's to complete the life and the soul of all the residents of Vrindavan. It's all the cowherd boys, they're just completely distraught, they don't know what to do. But more than that, Krishna's mother and his father, Yashoda Mai and Nanda Maharaj, they start noticing these bad omens, that meteors are falling from the sky, there's thunder and trees are shaking. And so they can understand something bad is happening. And more than that, Lord Balaram, Krishna's brother, he's not with Krishna. Usually he's always with Krishna, but I think it's described, today was actually Krishna's birthday. Or so, Lord, was it, yeah. So Lord Balaram wasn't with him, so they got even more worried. So they started following Krishna's footsteps. Krishna's footsteps are easy to notice because he got special signs on his feet. Yeah, and so all the residents of Vrindavan, they come to the bank of the Yamuna, and they see that Krishna is enfoiled in the coils of this huge black serpent. And Mother Yashoda, she practically just gives up her life straight away. She's completely distraught, and she wants to run in afterwards and just go save him. People have to pull her back. And all the while, Lord Balaram, he's just a little bit older than Krishna, this is his older brother, who's also the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's just smiling because he knows Krishna's potency. He knows who Krishna is. He knows there's no need to worry. But Krishna, he performs these pastimes to increase the love of his devotees. So Krishna's in here, and it's described, I think it's 2 hours, 3 hours. He's completely caught the snake, and everyone's just they're practically losing their lives, so that worried. And just at the point when things are going to get too bad, people are going to just completely give up, then Krishna begins to expand himself. And Kaliya, although Kaliya's a very, very strong snake, he has to let go. There's nothing he can do. Let's go. And then Krishna expands himself, and then Kaliya starts attacking. And Krishna is very expert in all his dealings, and very artistic as well. So what he does, he starts dancing. Kaliya's got these many, many heads, hundreds of hoods, and each one is trying to attack Krishna. And he dances, on top of each of them. Meanwhile, it looks like a beautiful dance, but also he's kicking the head of Kaliya, and is slowly subduing him. So much so that Kaliya starts actually vomiting blood, etc. But it's described that when Kaliya starts vomiting, this is him being relieved of all his sinful reactions, like this. And so it's going on. It's very, one sense, it's very beautiful. This is the thing. Krishna is the best dancer. the wives of Kalia, the Nagapatnis, they come and they say, Krishna, we can. They're getting a little bit worried because they're thinking, well, our husband's gonna be killed, and although our husband's not a very good, the husband's not a very good person, we know that. But at the same time, particularly in Vedic culture, it's not good for young women to be unmarried. They should have a husband. And so they pray to Krishna. They say, yeah, dear Krishna, we don't know how fortunate our husband is that he's managed to, after, even though he's very, very sinful and he's tried to attack you and tried to attack the residents from Vrindavan, he's getting the mercy of your lotus feet on his head. But please spare him. And so at the end, Krishna, he's playing the role of a 7-year-old boy and he's protecting his friends. So eventually, after Kaliya is completely subdued, he's been kicked repeatedly by Krishna. Then Krishna says, "Be gone, demon," like this, and never come back to these waters. It's like this, and then Kaliya leaves. But it's described that the reason Krishna would always normally kill the demons, whether it's Putana or Kashuda or Danakasura or any of these demons, but Lord Balaram, Lord Krishna, they would kill them, or Kamsa, etc. But with Kaliya, he didn't. And it's described that the prayers of Kaliya's wives, these were very powerful. The prayers of the devotion, and Krishna listens to what his devotees want. Moreover, his brother, Lord Balaram, also takes the form of a snake. Anantashesh is described. All the material universes are on the back of Anantashesh, which is none different from Lord Balaram, Sankarshan. And therefore he's a little bit fond of snakes, in one sense. He's fond of snakes. And also, supposedly the passing of Kaliya was the first time that Krishna and Srimati Radharani, they met. And therefore anything that, benefits the pastimes between Krishna and Lord Srimati Radharani, then Krishna is very pleased with this. So he gave the snake some mercy. And see that ultimately getting the mercy of the devotees is the necessity for spiritual life. That we have no qualification. There's really nothing that we can do. We can, for so many lifetimes, we've sort of been engaged in material activities, and it's not that we can just be sort of neutral in material activities. That I always like one quote. It's in the Bible. Jesus says, "Those who are not with me are against me." So in material activities, we're engaged in enjoying our senses. And the basic mentality, although it may seem harmless, the basic mentality is thinking, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller. Let's forget about God. How can I, fundamentally enjoy this situation? And therefore we're working in opposition towards God, which is it's actually distressing for the living entity, as we are all parts and parcel of Krishna. We're eternally servants. And so to act in a position which isn't as a servant is, this is why there's so much anxiety. But nonetheless, Krishna facilitates. He allows us to do this. But we require the mercy. Everything we have, actually. I just think of myself, just sort of wandering around, reading different books, not quite sure of what philosophy of life is. I'm not unsure the purpose, etc. But then, when people introduce you, it's to the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, you get books like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, which are giving you a complete science of spiritual life. A complete overview of how everything is working. And we pray every morning, Om Jnana Tamarandasya, Gyananshana Shalakarya, Chakshuramritam Yena, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha, that I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but by the the mercy of the spiritual master, he has forced open my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And there's nothing more valuable, it says in the Bhagavad Gita in the 4th chapter, there's nothing more valuable than this transcendental knowledge. Because we're forced to act in this world. You know, we cannot remain in this world without acting, even to eat, etc. It causes much activity, you know, other living entities. Even you try and, you know, you have some nice organic vegetarian farm, still you want to grow potatoes, then, you know, some insects get killed, undoubtedly, or you walk across the surface and, you know, some bugs, and, you know, so we cannot act in any way that is not causing harm to others, etc. But when we act in knowledge, then we can get free from all these reactions. But yeah, it's a little bit waffly, but perhaps there's some comments or questions so far. There can be criticisms or disagreements as well. It can be challenging. That's true.
Supreme truth, Krishna is person, is the supreme truth. Person, somewhat perhaps in our mind can still maybe take in. But like supreme truth, what does that mean? And supreme truth is a person, then truth being a person.
You hear some people, they talk of the universe. You know, they say, you know, I was in a very stressful situation. I spoke to the universe, and the universe reciprocated. It's the universe, and basically they mean sort of totality. You know, everything. They don't quite understand what it is. As we're understanding this totality, as everything, has a source, has a face, has a heart, has a personality that we can reciprocate with, which is actually the source of everything. And we can't even conceive. Usually people are just thinking of this sort of material all-pervasiveness, but this material universe is described as simply a small fragment of the Lord's energy. So Krishna is all-pervading. You know, there's, in one sense, there's nothing but Krishna, but Krishna remains aloof, and Krishna does not lose his individuality. And fundamentally, this personal aspect of Krishna is the most important, is what Krishna cares about the most. And as his parts and parcels is what we care about the most. You know, it's described the residents of Vrindavan. They did not love God. No, they did not love Krishna because he was God. They loved God because he was Krishna. That they're not so actually interested. You know, first of all, we have to, you know, we come to the realization, okay, hang on a sec, maybe there is a supreme being, maybe there is a God. That's a nice level of realization. You know, some people, they stop there. They don't understand what God is. If he has a form, does he have a personality? Is he just some impersonal? They just say, well, there's a God. Okay, that's fair enough. Some people get a little bit further. Maybe they try and understand what the nature of God is, what he's like, you know, or maybe some of the details, how he's created this. And this is nice, but then they stop there. And we can keep going though. And this is what the Shastra is giving us, is more and more detailed descriptions of the nature, the personality of God. Yeah, and it's ultimately the deeper we get, then this is why I'm in no way qualified to speak actually, but when we hear about, this is what Prabhupada did, is that rather than going this long process of ascending, he straight away gave people Krishna. Because Krishna in Vrindavan is the supreme personality of Godhead, the source of everything, and every single living entity has a unique relationship with Krishna, and a relationship of love, of service, which we're all intensely hankering for. But it goes beyond that. The Bhagavatam doesn't just teach who the supreme personality of Godhead is; it teaches who the supreme personality of Krishna. You know, what age, etc. But yeah, it's far beyond my level of realization. But I guess it's. What's your thoughts?
And it's very intriguing toward absolute truth, absolute reality in the person. And in my condition, experience, not like a truthful person, but truth being the person.
Even we understand like many different cultures. You take like a mountain or a river, or a forest. It's something that's sort of all pervasive. But you understand there's actually a personality behind that. It's not such a foreign concept. You can even think in, in was it Greek mythology, or is it even in sort of different stories from Britain, etc. This idea that especially rivers have great personalities, and we can even understand in that concept. Um, or even you take something like a concept like justice, like the Prabhupada gives the example of the President of the United States. The government of the United States, they might represent like power or justice or something like that, like an abstract concept. But else, you go to the source, there's a person there in the office, that's the source of everything. Um, but yeah, I guess when we use words, there's always limitations. Absolute truth. What do you actually mean? Um,
In our Brahma Madhya Vaishnava Sampradaya, yes, Sampradaya Guru Parampara. But we see many other spiritual practitioners, different traditions, and some personalities did not necessarily have a proper guru say, but they're very influential, or like they say, like we speak God, see God, or they may not have read any books also, or they may not recommend as well. But like they perform mystics, much things and all. So how do we understand this? That is guru required or then not required?
I mean, you see all these people, they exist in some tradition, and they may not actually properly understand the intricacies of the guru-disciple relationship. But generally, there's an understanding of a teacher. You get your knowledge from some source. I just know from like Christianity, for example, they place emphasis on no one can become a priest in Catholicism unless you're. They talk about the apostolic succession. That Christ ordained these priests, and then they ordain other people and they lay the hands on, etc. And similarly I know within Sufism, there's veneration of great saints. Not always physically present, but people that will, some of the biggest shrines in the Islamic world are these shrines dedicated towards great saints, great Sufi saints, whose names I can never remember. They always pass my mind. Like in places like Iran, there's huge places, and they're very much venerating these saints. They start certain schools, and people there and they follow. So I have to understand the process of the guru-disciple relationship, when to its ultimate end is the guru becomes responsible for lifting the disciple out of the material ocean. But different paths don't always give the highest goal. Some people they become sidetracked by developing some mystic powers, etc. Or it's even described if we can actually become liberated without a spiritual master. But we cannot go to Goloka Vrindavan. We're limited to where we can go. We cannot get the highest realization. So some people they can get so far, but Yeah. Prabhupada was once asked what's the greatest scientific export from India? Greatest scientific export from India. And he said the Guru Parampara. Yeah, because this is the Guru Parampara is actually what gives us knowledge. Everyone's thinking, oh, the books give you knowledge, or your intellect gives you knowledge, or you can study the material world to give you knowledge. But no, the only way we get knowledge is by someone who actually has knowledge can impart it to us. Because Tattva Darshini, that they are actually seeing the truth. Gyaninas Tattva Darshini, therefore they can pass the truth on to us.
It's the guru's responsibility when to liberate the disciples.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if the disciple is adamant not to be liberated, then it makes the job somewhat difficult. But ultimately, describe when one takes initiation, then that relationship is eternal, and it's a duty, the guru's duty, to see that the disciple becomes liberated.
What if the guru has made it, say, Guru Vrindavan, and the disciple is still here?
There's no limitations to these personalities, You even see then, for instance, all the different exalted personalities came to join Lord Chaitanya in his Leela, join Krishna in his Leela, but they did not leave their post, And also it's great that Krishna is liberating. Krishna enters into the relationship with the guru and the disciple, and he liberates the disciple through this relationship. And if a guru is one, they come in different forms. It's like we even hear stories of, like, perhaps there's some, we met at Rathayatra, that one Mataji. She was a Prabhupada disciple in her previous life. She was a brahmachari, and then I think she got hit by a car or something, but she had vivid recollections of her past life. And you see the picture, and she actually looks very much the same. But then she got a new spiritual master and things. So how did that work? But Guru is one. But also Guru is personal. Yeah, it'd be interesting to actually to hear. Because you have a personal relationship with the spiritual master. But yeah, we know Krishna's taking care of us, so there's no need to worry. But at the same time, if we don't make it this lifetime, it's not like we're forcing the spiritual master to have to suffer rebirthing things. What's your thoughts?
It's an eternal relationship. Some things will be difficult for me to explain by words or some things in theory make sense, some things theory also
Yeah, they don't even make sense in theory. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai Tagore Premanande. Jai all of you ki.